Welcome to the Unspoken Truth podcast, where the mission is to hear the story, to have the margarita conversation instead of the Diet Coke one, and to share the amazingness and superpower of every woman that comes on the podcast. My name is Paige Brown, certified leadership and shadow work coach, nationally certified counselor with over 16 years of experience shadow work and self-sabotage. And today I'm joined by Caytlyn D, who is a healer, a women's mentor. She guides women back to feeling free in their bodies and self-expression, connected to spirit and living in their truth, which I absolutely love. I'm so excited about this. Caytlyn is the founder of Free Spirit Living and the Integrative Pelvic Care method. Her approach was inspired by her own journey of curing chronic disease in her body. And now she weaves ancient feminine wisdom with cutting-edge feminine fascia research to provide women holistic integrative journeys. That was a little bit of a mouthful for me. My apologies. But welcome, Caytlyn. I'm so excited. I was literally reading this and I told you, I was like, I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So we were talking about, like, I always say, like, I end up talking to you guys about 15 minutes before every single time, just because I'm like, sometimes I'm just meeting you guys for the first time and I'm like going to be like, hey, so tell me about your life. But I was just super interested in this because when I saw the chronic disease, there's so many people that I know have been hit with chronic disease and they've tried their own methods and their own things. And I've seen some like serious miracles happen. And I know it's not really miracles, it's obviously intentional and things like that. So, and I know that you were inspired by that. So would you mind sharing that a little bit with us?
Yeah, absolutely. My journey to get here and to share this work with other women was not something that I ever could have imagined. I was very disconnected from my body, lived with pain and symptoms and so much shame around my womb and my menstruation and sexuality, and for many years I struggled in silence. Like, I just suffered in silence. I popped ibuprofen. I was a cowgirl and rancher's girlfriend in high school, so it was like cowgirl up and get shit done. And then I was offered back surgery when I was 22. And because they found I had bulging discs, I got really sick, like 104-degree fever. They did some scans and found, couldn't really connect the sickness to the back pain, but it was all happening at once. So they were like, well, you have a 40-year-old's back. You need to quit riding horses, lifting hay bales, skiing, doing all these things you love, and we can give you surgery. And luckily, I said no.
Yeah.
I moved back home shortly after that, which is up in the mountains of Colorado, and we had hot springs nearby. And I just started committing going to the hot springs and receiving massage, like, religiously. And at the time, I was also taking ibuprofen, some muscle relaxers, but it was all helping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I moved out of that pain and luckily didn't have the scar tissue ramifications that I would have for surgery that I was still dealing with. And it wasn't until, I had it was quite a tumultuous few years after that, but then, started to have an awakening after leaving an abusive relationship and started really tuning into my body more and more, until my youngest sister suicided 7 years ago. And that was what really was the final straw, kick in the butt from the universe to really get curious about the physiology of trauma. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have this, goal of where I was going to end up. It was just, I want to feel different in my body and I need to deal with some of this anger that I am perpetuating.
Yeah.
And that led me down very deeply into the body. And eventually I found pelvic health and pelvic care, and that was kind of my final frontier. And when I started to learn about my own body and just be able to understand how she worked, that shifted so much for me, mentally, spiritually, physically, and finally having the revelation of like, oh, this actually isn't a mystery. We're just completely we just don't hear any of this because
Mm-hmm.
of shame, taboo, desire to control the feminine. And that is what really called me on the path to sharing this with other women. I was like, other women have to know this. If it could take me from frozen, in pain, afraid to speak, disconnected, to like having the confidence to share this online and name my body parts and talk about, you know, all of the things taboo, like other women have to know this. And that is what has led me here.
I love that. Absolutely. And we do have a lot in common in that aspect, because the reason why I preach self-sabotage work is because all of that comes from trauma. Like all of that. I mean, when we literally, and I've gone through a lot of trauma myself, and my low point was when I was 23, and I've talked about it before on here, is that when I was 23 years old, I tried to kill myself. And I was like, all right, this isn't okay. Like, where am I right now? Like, what has to happen? Right. So I really got more curious about me at that point. Right. So it was just like, this is not normal. This is not normal behavior to feel this way. And so, and I do think we make everything sort of taboo. Like, we make like the mental health region very taboo in terms of just general mental health, not even just getting into our bodies and getting into our hearts and getting into like what's actually ticking underneath. And then especially with women, that was my calling with women, is to help them share what's going on inside of them, right? Purging those emotions and not feeling bad about it. Like, stop apologizing for actually having an emotional reaction, because women are emotional creatures, and when we don't allow our bodies to express that, that's when we're holding on to like all the things that are causing trauma in our bodies physically, because we're not releasing it in a healthy way. And I just applaud you for doing that. I mean, I've started going online more recently, just talking about those, you know, the hard things to talk about, right? And part of that was like me stepping into this, was starting this podcast too, is going like, I'm going to have these conversations, because you're not alone. We're not the only people experiencing this, and it isn't easy, and it's healing to be able to just say like, I'm going to go cry, or I'm going to go yell and scream and get this out of my body. And people just don't talk about that. And it's because we're deemed by society as too emotional or too much or taking up too much space. And I'm like, why the hell can't we take up space? We deserve to take up some space. Like, you know, and so I love that you were just so expressive in that, and like helping women in that area, because it's just, I think it's so needed. And I don't know, it just makes my heart feel good hearing you talk about that, even though I know it like wasn't like an easy road to get there. And I'm so sorry to hear about your sister as well, like 7 years ago. That's hard to go through as like a bystander, you know, just in that moment. So I love that you've turned that into a gift though. What, like the pelvic center, what is that? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. When I speak of the pelvis, I really first am referring to the bony structure. I think a lot of times we hear pelvis and we think pelvic floor, vagina, gynecology, but first and foremost is the bone structure that is the pelvis, that is the foundation of our body. It is the center of movement, and it is literally a source of stability within ourselves. And this is something, you know, you can touch it, you can prod it, you can feel it right now, even around your hip bones. And
Yeah.
really feel into that solidity and, again, stability within yourself. And then, of course, we do have the pelvic, commonly called pelvic floor, but it's really a diaphragm that is primarily fascia, which is connective tissue that is more, 6 times more innervated than muscle, and really is the key to, which means it has more nerves, 6 times more nerves than muscle.
Oh, wow.
And is really the key to body memory, what holds emotional patterns, imprints of trauma, etc. And within that space, then we have our womb and ovaries and, bladder and lower digestive system, and it all sits right at our base. And because of the nerve pathways that travel there, including the vagus nerve, when we do not feel safe in our body, when we feel like we are not safe in the world, which for women, I was on a walk yesterday and I walked past this group of teenage boys, and I could feel myself like having just like a little bit prickly, like, it was daytime and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just like, am I safe? And it really was such a profound reminder of like, yes, of course I was, but there's this response within my body that is like, am I safe walking alone right now?
Mm-hmm.
And when we go through this and we hold these patterns over time, we clench our pelvic diaphragm. We clench the butthole. That's the most primal space in the body. It's the first to develop in the womb. And has all of these fight or flight sympathetic nerve pathways in it. So when we hold these patterns of not being safe, not being safe, not being safe, we have these memories in our tissues, right? And then on top of that, we're creating these tension patterns that ultimately can lead to pain, prolapse, sexual dysfunction, digestive issues, and hormonal imbalances, infertility, all of these, really widely accepted and normalized dis-eases in the female body. And when treated through mainstream therapies,
Mm-hmm.
including holistic ones, it's often still, we got to fix your hormones, we got to fix this, we got to fix that, we got to fix this, instead of looking at the holistic, true interconnectedness of the body and how the tissues, the systems, the organs, the cells all actually are designed to work in harmony. And that's really what my work is about, is not isolating one symptom or one trauma, one experience, one memory. It's how do we actually leverage this system and see you as the whole woman, because that's how the body heals.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I saw a video of a spinal cord being developed in utero, and it's like how it just proves how powerful these, I would call them spells, are to make us fear and doubt our bodies so much, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, look at how she developed. Look at how she, knows how to heal a bone, knows how to heal a cut. Like, of course, she isn't designed to be in pain or have these chronic issues. So when we get her, work with her and release this fear and release this identity and take our power back and accept the responsibility we have, we can shift anything in the body.
No, I love that. I believe that too, intrinsically. And you are the first person I've talked to so far that really goes into that pelvic area. And I really feel like that is so essential for women in particular, because we have a lot there. That is like a lot going on down there. And I mean, and I say that just in the passive sense, because honestly, like, I am not an expert in that area, but like, just when you were talking, and I was taking a couple of notes, because I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, just really looking at, and even looking at the holistic doctors that we do have, like the functional medicine ones that are literally still going, because I had the same, it was like ringing in my head when you said that, because my husband goes to a functional medicine practitioner, and he was struggling with, I know we're talking man physiology over women, but like initially it was like almost immediately like, well, we need to work on your testosterone and your hormone levels. And I'm sitting here like, it's almost like an immediate reaction. It's the same thing like with like if I were to go and like be like, okay, well, this feels a little off for me. Well, let's look at, because you're 41 now, so let's look at all the hormones. And it's like, that's where they want to go. And it's just absolutely insane. And I feel like too, I almost feel like hormones have become like a scapegoat for a lot of things. It's like the new trending, how we have those trending words.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is such a rap. Like, I feel like, I'm like, but like, it just popped in my head. It's like the hormones are like the enemy in a lot of ways, because it's like, oh, you're on your cycle. Your hormones are doing random crap to your brain right now. And I'm like, no. Like, but that's like the man's thought, like, oh, it's your hormones or whatever. You're irrational because you're hormonal today. And we almost use it as a verb. And I'm like, it is not a verb. It's like, it's just something in your body. But then it's like, oh, but then when you're depleted of them, it's almost like, well, that makes sense because she's imbalanced. It's like, why are we using this as like a scapegoat? That is just like so enlightening when you were talking about that. I just absolutely, why are we not talking about all the systems in there and intricate, like,
Yeah,
Why?
you know,
Like, why?
that, like I have never in my whole health and healing journey with my clients, with myself, I have never focused on hormones because hormones don't act on their own.
No.
They are, you know, our bones impact our hormonal health. Our nervous system governs hormones. Our fascial structure and fasciocytes create hormonal production. And so it's just, again, you can go down this thread, but then it's like, well, do you still have pain? Do you still have digestive issues? Like what, you know, it's this whack-a-mole game of symptoms instead of actually bringing the whole body into alignment, because we're still in this patriarchal model of looking for a fix for symptoms and just, you know, trying to feel, quote unquote, feel better, which sometimes that is necessary. I want to honor that. Like when I was taking ibuprofen and muscle relaxers, I needed to get to a certain point, a certain baseline of not being in pain so that my body could heal in other ways. And when somebody is really, really ready to get to, you know, a lot of people talk about the root. Well, if you want to get to the root, there is no bypassing the sensation. There is no bypassing the stories, etc. You have to go into the fear and the disconnection and this, you know, our bodies are confronting, but she will only reveal truth. She's not like the mind where it's like we need to figure out the story and go in this loop forever. She will only show you what you're ready to know and what you need to know, and she can free, you know, trauma patterns and imprints of traumas from lifetimes without us having to actually relive all of that.
Oh yeah, I
Not
agree with that.
bypassing, you know, because if something arises, we will work with it, but she's so efficient. And because we have been taught to fear our body, to control her, to be disconnected from her, there is so much fear into actually going into her in a really deep, slow, intentional way. And that is the path to liberation. You know, she holds the imprint to our soul. This is literally our divine design. And she will guide us into exactly what we need to know to live our purpose and, you know, exalt our true self in our life.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. You talk about this so cool. Like I just I'm like sitting over here going like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say to you." I'm just so floored. I believe everything you're saying to me. Like absolutely, and it just in different paths that I've taken, right? Like but in not in the same conventional or non-conventional actually way that you have really looked at this and you've embodied it and you've researched it and you found all these answers for people, which I think is a beautiful thing to do. But I 100% agree with that. That was one of the reasons why I left the therapy background is like, you don't have to relive trauma to release trauma. Like that is not a thing. You do not have to do that. And there are the women that I work with have been so stuck inside of themselves, without realizing that that's where they're stuck. Right. You know, and when I work with them, it's not about reliving the trauma. It's about completely like going into yourself and like feeling where that feels in your body, right? And a lot of the pain comes from that pelvic region, right? When I do a lot of the exercises with women, they are holding a lot of pain in that solar plexus region, or they're holding a lot of pain in that root area of their body, because that's why they don't feel grounded and that's why they don't feel, you know, good. And so when they can actually like identify that and release it, it feels so good to them. And I'm like, yeah. And I mean, I was going to say something, it probably sounds really, really crude, but like I was going to say like, but it's like, well, let's just say it's like a good, you know, orgasm, right? Like it's like that release of that because you're holding on to it. It's like you're holding on to something that you don't need to hold on to, and it's toxic for you. And so when you can finally release it and you actually feel like you're freely able to express that and to let it go, and also the control thing. The control, like women want to control. And that's like, I think that's a societal thing. Like I really believe that that's what has been handed down over hundreds of years. And like, that's what we've been given in terms of like our responsibility, but we can't control anything. We cannot control, what is, you know, divinely meant for us. You know, we're just on this path and we're riding it and we need to show up the way that we need to show up, and we got to let go of control. And that is like the hardest freaking thing for people to do, is to release that control. When you work with women and they come to you, what is like the big thing that you tend to see? Like what is like a common like symptom, or, you know, because somebody might be like going like, well, maybe this might be for me, but I'm not sure, right? Like, so like, because this is the first I've heard of this, so I know a lot of people are probably like, what is this? So like, what are you seeing that they're aware of versus like what you're seeing? You know, when you look at them, you can see it a little differently.
Yeah, I think for me a big piece is the way that I see the whole body. So it's like I work with women with all types of dis-ease, symptoms, pain, like, you know, marketing copy coaches love me because I'm like, well, they come in for all different reasons. And if it's in the female body and we bring the female body into alignment, whatever shit you have going on is going to resolve itself.
Exactly.
It's that simple. And we like to, you know, distract ourselves with all kinds of complex 15 different things for 15 different stories and traumas and, you know, symptoms and parts and pieces. And they're, you know, like I mentioned earlier, in the holistic and allopathic realms. And this is not to demonize all of it, but it is to differentiate when we work with the whole feminine in a container that is built to revere her, not one that was built on top of something that has harmed her for millennia. Resolution of symptoms is a natural response. Just by being in a space where she feels really safe, really held, really revered. And, you know, this is not easy. It's not a magic trick where we just snap our fingers, somebody steps in, and things resolve. It requires a willingness to look at what you have been avoiding, even through, you know, years and years of trauma work, somatics, embodiment, blah, blah, blah. You can do that for years and avoid to really get in there.
Oh, yeah.
And the biggest, you know, tool that I teach for women to work with is their own hands with their body. And I guide them through practices to work with their own fascia. The last place we work is the pelvis, because most women have been, you know, if they have a problem in their pelvis, somebody pokes and prods it. If they, you know, are in a relationship, sex, it's like go right for the pelvis, go right for the pelvis, go right for the pelvis. Pleasure practices, feminine embodiment, it's like, oh, we can get into the yoni, we can do the vaginal work, we can do the pleasure work. What happens if we really slow down and create space for this center of our body first and create a relationship with our whole body, not in this goal-oriented, I must achieve something, but to feel and to build a relationship with this vessel. And that in turn cultivates deep safety in our nervous system in a way that no practitioner can replace. Because when we work with our own hands and we are experiencing ourselves, you know, the touch, we experience the touch of ourself, like we're receiving touch, but we also experience what's beneath our hand. And there can be emotions about both sides of that. So it's this exponential embodiment experience that no one can do for you.
No.
And part of this journey is the identity work, because fascia is not just this, you know, it's 90% sensory, so it's taking in what is occurring around us. It's not just this highly innervated tissue that wraps every single cell, every nerve, every blood vessel, every organ. It's also informing who we are and how we be in the world. It's saying, where am I in space? Right? Like, where am I in the world? What's over here? What's over there? And it develops at the same time that our subconscious forms. So from 0 to 7, we know our subconscious forms. This is also the time our fascial structure develops. And, you know, we can do all the mindset work in the world, but when we bring the fascial structure into the experience in a feminine way, I'm not talking about like blasting through the layers or this intense, deep, how much pain can you take type release work, but really restoring fluidity in a feminine way. And as we shift that, our identity shifts too, who we be in the world. We're shedding layers of body armor, of protection, of tension patterns, because muscles don't really hold memory. Sorry to burst everyone's bubble. It's the fascia. And when we are shifting this, it's literally changing how we be in the world. And why this is so important in a healing journey is that we can be taught a lot of different tools about how to heal, practices to do, etc. But we're not actually taught how to be quote unquote more successful in our bodies.
Yeah.
And when we have been attached to a symptom, when we have built an identity around a symptom, when we have built an identity around being in pain or sick or insecure or not able to speak, or whatever that pattern is, it's held in our body. If we don't speak up, we tend to clench our jaw, round our shoulders, swallow down our thoughts, feelings, emotions. When we are protecting our heart, we curl our shoulders forward so we can do all of the work to open our voices, heal our jaw, open our heart, blah blah blah. But if we aren't actually embodying that, then the results will be limited, and it feels like we plateau, or it's like, well, this is as far as I can go.
Yeah.
But through actually creating this new identity, because all of this fascia is sending messages to our brain, right? It's the second most innervated tissue behind our skin. So what is occurring, what we're holding in our body, is going directly to our brain and saying, oh, okay, I can be the vibrant woman. I can be the most vibrant version of myself, which there are millennia of generations that have said it's not safe to be in your power, to speak up, to experience pleasure, to feel amazing, to be wealthy, whatever you're seeking. There are very good reasons to hold back on that. And if you fear judgment from your peers, from your family, from your friends, then it's very easy to slump back into pain, disconnection, the loop of symptoms.
Yeah, no, I agree with like, I was writing stuff down. I was like, this is great. Like, I absolutely agree with you. And there's so many different ways of like treating people that are not delicate, right? They're not, and I'm not saying like people are are breakable and all that kind of stuff, because that's not what I want to emphasize here. But what I want to emphasize is the fact that, like, again, like, the reason why I went out of therapy was because it was very aggressive. Like, some therapy can be very aggressive. EMDR work, that is like a rapid trauma surging response to heal. And I was literally talking to a woman at the gym, and this is what was coming into my mind when you were talking about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally like connect you guys online, because we were talking about this in the gym, and she told me, she's like, oh, I went through EMDR for 2 years to heal from my trauma. But yet the entire conversation that we were having was circulating around the trauma she still has. So I'm sitting here like, that did not work. And all it did was make you relive this tragic situation for 2 years, apparently, which, shocked me when she said that. Because I was like, I know EMDR is usually supposed to be more rapid than that. I was like, 2 years you were put through that? That's insane. But it was like just to serve that one trigger response, right? Versus like everything else out in the world. And it's about how you really can care about your body, so that you're not in such a gentle way, in such an understanding way. And when you go inside, it's like, because I have gone through a lot of what I would consider trauma situations, right? And when I've done the therapy thing, I've done the coaching, I've done all the things, which is sort of kind of why I started doing the stuff that I'm doing, right? Like, but it was so much more than that. The suicide attempt was the pinnacle, right? Like, that was like, I'm in the hole, I'm done. And I'm very happy I'm still here, obviously, and doing the things that I'm doing. But those things, those tools that they were giving me, it wasn't healing anything. In fact, it was making me second guess more and more and more of myself, right? And so when I finally actually found I would say the tools, or the knowledge of going inside of me and like understanding myself and trusting myself and the self-love that you can give, for yourself. Because there's so many people out there that if I said, how much do you actually love yourself? Like, really, like, is that uncomfortable for you to say, I love me? That to me is like the instant, like, you have to go in here. That is the reason why you are in such pain right now. And the love and the trust, right? Those are like synonymous for me. If you can't trust yourself, you can't love yourself. And if you can't love yourself, you can't trust yourself. So so that was my wake up call for me. Right. And so as soon as I started to do that, and believe me, I did some ugly crying on that stuff. It was like, but it was such a cool thing, right? For me to be like, I got me. So really, I'm good. Like, like in all the other aspects. And I think that's when you were talking about like just that care that you give to your body is so important because, and you're right, with your own hands. I did, I am not a professional in it at all, but I went through nervous system regulation coaching by somebody who did do that, like very much the hands-on, which really, this was years ago, but she let me know, like, that was sort of my like wake up call into like, I got to understand what's going on in here, because that was like the first real, almost like tangible thing that I could really put my finger on, that I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. And so because you have to use your hands, it is huge. Like, because you're like, oh, I can even just do this for me. Like, I don't need anybody. And I mean, yes, you need a teacher because you could probably mess up some stuff if you're doing it wrong. But like, I felt like it was such a healing process for me to be able to just provide that to myself when I needed it, that it was just, that was like the beginning of opening that door to self-understanding. So I absolutely loved how you said that. That was really, really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And it's, that was a big reason why I felt inspired to create the body of work that I have, because when we went through COVID, I was in this transition phase of like stepping into this purpose work. And I recognized, oh my gosh, my mom and sister, who are both massage therapists, my body workers, my yoga teachers, like they're all out of work right now. So doesn't seem like great job security if I'm only seeing people one-off sessions. And B, there are women all over the globe who do not have the mecca, which I live near Boulder, Colorado. It's like you throw a crystal, you'll hit a body worker any dream.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's not true everywhere in the world. And to recognize that and be like, wow, and I started doing this work with myself, and I was moving faster through these layers because I was recognizing how the shifts that I would create in my body would actually stick in a different way, because I wasn't going into a strange place, hearing all the noises, being around other people, finding parking in a city, getting back in my car, driving home, sitting in traffic, and it's like you do all that and you come back and you're like, okay.
You're like, I was relaxed for 5 seconds.
And it was really, really illuminating for me. And recognizing too, how we as women especially have been taught to give our power away when it comes to our bodies. And it's even dressed up as privilege to be able to do so.
Yeah.
Where, we're taught it's safe and it's good to just go to the gynecologist, let somebody in our body. Or partners that disrespect us. And there's no judgment in this whatsoever. I want to be really clear about that. But these are the ways that we have been taught, come in, lay on the table, and somebody's going to fix you. And this is why I do not do in-person work with somebody outside of a mentorship container. Because we are actually working with trust and intimacy, and I am not interested in taking someone's power away when they could do it themselves. And that's not to be mean, it's not to withhold, it's because you actually can cure your body of most dis-ease. And when you embody this and you learn it, you can teach your daughters, and they can teach their daughters, and they will teach their partners how to touch their bodies. And this is actually how women call that power back in and change the narrative when it comes to the female body, which brings through life. Like, you want to solve the problems of the world, let's tend to the body that brings life into the world.
I know, right? Oh my gosh, that's like that meme. Well, it wasn't really a meme. It was a video going viral, and I don't know if you saw this, but like I absolutely loved it. And it was like a guy was asking a girl, he goes, "Who contributes most to the world?" And she's like, "Women, obviously." And he goes, "Oh, really? Like, who was the first person to walk on the moon? Who was the first person to, or who's the wealthiest person in the world? Who invented the light bulb?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's a fair point, but who gave birth to all of them?" And I was just like, that was like, that's such a huge thing, because like it is true. It's like without women you would literally have none of that. And it's about honoring that and about being that empowered person, and taking back. And I love how you said that too, because you're right. This is not about judgment. It's about the fact that we have been taught, this is just how we don't know what we don't know. I say that all the time. We don't know what we don't know. So when we're conditioned to have a certain response, or to show up in certain ways, or to react in certain, like, honestly, like, self-defense strategies, right? Because like if you're in an abusive relationship, or if you're in a bad situation, this is just your conditioning. This is what has happened. And so there is no fault to be had right there. Like this is just something that, and you're doing self-preservation, especially if you have kids or something like that. And you're trying to figure out how to, like, get out of that. Or maybe you've gotten out of that abusive relationship, but now you're trying to actually have a healthy relationship, and it's not going well because you don't know how to act, right? Like this is like a thing.
This doesn't feel safe.
This does not feel safe. Like, what do you mean? Like, where's the trigger? When's the shoe going to drop, right? Which is not ever healthy, because then what's going to end up happening is you are going to push away the good people in your life because of that, right? Which is like the trauma responses that I really deal with is in that, right? Like the emotional heaviness of a lot of women that will push people away because they say, if I push them away first, like, I'm safe. And so I don't use hands like you do, but I do a lot of the self-touch stuff, like for them. Like if it's like sort of like, if this is coming from inside of your heart, like what you need to put your hand there, because you need to feel it, you need to understand where it is. And I do that now with all my clients. I have them touch it. I'm like, breathe for a second and feel like, where is this, right? And even if it's not emanating from here, it's like you can feel your chest, you can feel your heart, you can feel all of those things, and breathe into it and figure out, where is this coming from in your body, because this is where it's stored, which means this is where we have to release it, right? So it's just such a beautiful way of saying, like, you can touch yourself in a way that's safe and understanding, and it can heal a lot of the ways. And then when you learn how you're supposed to take care of yourself, and when you learn how to respect your own self, which is not saying that anybody's disrespecting it, it's more about the fact that you've learned one way, and now you have to kind of correct to, like, be like, oh, this feels safe. And then you can educate everybody else. And that's the other thing, is that, some of these men, they just don't know. They don't know. Like they were taught something, and so that's what they've accepted as a truth, and that's what you've accepted as a truth. So therefore it's like, it's not lining up. But if you could take everybody that is in these situations and educate them, and like empower, which is what you do. I know, like, this is like, she's like empowering women to take back control of how they're treated, but also how they treat themselves, which I think is amazing. And being able to educate that because of the handwork, I think is a beautiful thing. And then, yeah, of course it's going to inspire, better intimacy situations and better connections. And, I can't help but think also the relationships that come off of this are also a lot more healthy and fruitful, and the communication becomes better, and all of these things, instead of like, you don't know how to respect me, so I'm just leaving you, like, which happens. And it's just it's a trend that we're seeing, obviously, I think a lot right now in today's world, because I think a lot of people forgot also how to communicate because of technology. But the fact that, like, you're getting back into that, like, tangible, and I think it's just such a cool thing. I'm just like in awe right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could ask you 5 million more questions, but we're just going to have you back on, because I was like, I'm going to end up making this a 3-hour podcast. But it's such a beautiful thing that you do. And I think that it's just revolutionary, really, in the way, because not saying that, maybe other people haven't heard this before, because I'm sure that there have been people that have, but I'm just like floored. And I've been in like the like more holistic, whole body space for a while. And I'm like, wow, I've not heard this. So that's why when I read your stuff, I was like, I want to talk to this girl because I have no idea. I had no idea, and I think it's just such a cool, it's just a cool system. And it's like you've fused a lot of different practices together that just really work well together. And I think that's just really awesome. And I applaud you for it because I'm sure a lot of women get a lot of help out of it. Like, that's just honestly amazing. I don't even know. I'm like, I could write 5 more episodes off of this, but
to really go in and revert, like, I am, if you want to qualify it as ADHD, the way that my mind works, I do shamanism work and things like that. So I see a lot of layers and a lot of patterns where people do not. And so for me, I went into my own journey without, like, I didn't know what the nervous system was. I did not know what the fascial system was. I wasn't seeking a specific result except feeling better in my body. So when I felt it first. And then when I went back and I reverse engineered it because I'm like, well, I want to share this. How did this actually work? Oh my gosh, this is fascinating.
Fascinating.
I could connect all of those dots, and that is where my work is very different, is that it's more of an experience. Like, I can tell you all about it, but it's actually, my intention is for a woman to feel it, because when you feel it and you feel that shift beneath your own hands and you feel like, oh my God, I felt safe in my body, I felt this shift, I felt this tension melt. That is this evidence that is so, so important and powerful for our belief. Because when we are healing our own bodies, we are not just, it's not just us. It is really dismantling deep, deep conditioning and programs, and I'll even say spells that have taught us to be disconnected and that teach us to be distracted from our purpose and that do not want us to thrive.
I love that.
So that is a big piece that, there is nobody except for you that is supposed to touch your own body. And anything that says, like, this is bad, this is wrong, I might hurt myself, whatever the story is, that is not truth. And to be able to hold on to that, and whatever is coming up is leaving, like, that is so powerful for women. And I've been in a relationship for almost 8 years, so my lovely, dear partner has been with me on this whole ride, and I have nearly pushed him away many, many times. And he has just been this sturdy, like, so many blessings to the divine masculine. And it is, I also see how my inability to speak up and my inability to ask for what I needed and my not even knowing what I did need was perpetuating these patterns in past relationships and even in this one. And, like, a good partner who's ready to do the work with a woman, they just need to know. And they're
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Wait. He's like, just tell me what to do.
They're fine with they just want the rule. They want the direction. It's amazing. No, that's exactly, I agree with you. And I have a husband, we will be married for 14 years in June. And he has done a lot of change with me because I was the same way. I was not able to communicate or ask for what I needed, and it really was going inward. And especially I'm newer to the shamanism track of things, but that has been, like, I would say a light year leap for me in the understanding of stuff, because it is just like a phenomenal experience for people to, like, if people are interested in it, I highly recommend you go into, like, sort of looking into it, because it is such a deeper understanding of self, but also, like, of the world around you. And it's such a beautiful thing. But it has elevated me on levels that I can't even understand. Like, I have actually asked my shaman too, because I'm like, I see all these layers and stuff and I get these visions of things, and she's like, no, that's normal. And I'm like, okay, I'm just saying, because but I realized what it was. Like, when it first started happening, I was like, okay, what is happening? Like, I don't get it. But then she's like, no, that's what you're, like, this is good. You're connecting with it, and that's what you're supposed to be seeing. And that has really opened up a lot for me for what I can do for the women I work with, because I can see the layers now, which is huge for me. And it's just been like, I'm just open to it. I'm like, just, yes, let's go. Like, let's let it happen. And it's just such a cool like way that you can really connect with not only like the nervous system, like you guys, like you do in your work and the communication, but also like, just your whole self, your whole body, but then the world around you, because we're all like these intricate pieces and it just all works together. And it's just really just a really cool thing to see and to understand that when you actually go into yourself, what you're really doing is, and this is something that I've dealt with women in a lot of ways, is that like you going into you to prioritize that system is not selfish. And I've had to really talk about that a lot because they think that they do, right? But it's not. It's self-care, right? It's self-care, because if you're not doing this, you're really just abandoning yourself over and over and over again. And when you leave this body and you're just like, okay, I have to be up in my head, overanalyzing, trying to control, trying to do these things, you're like you said, you're really just leaving your body to not be on the path that it's meant to be on, and you're trying to direct it down. So of course it's going to fight with you, because it's not you're not going in the right direction. You're going to be like, of course, like it's an uphill battle. And so once you finally actually get in tune with your body and what it's destined to do, then all of a sudden everything starts to click and everything starts to fall into place, and everything becomes easier because it is easier. It's not because it seems easier. It's because it is, because you allowed it to be. And I just think that it's such a cool system. And there's so many ways to do it in a way that's not damaging. Because I've talked to so many practitioners lately that just have this beautiful way of doing it. You being one of the latest ones of them, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And for anybody that's listening, if you are struggling with pain or with like emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain, whatever it is, it's like find the person out there that works for you. Find that person that's not aggressive, that understands that it has to be about you and your body, and find the person that is going to help you from the inside out, taking into account every freaking aspect of your body. Don't find the person that's trying to just push pills or over-the-counter medicine. Don't find the person that's just going to go straight to a quick fix or a cookie cutter concept. Just like find the person that actually gets you. And that's the relationship.
Probably will feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's not like I've never hired one of my mentors that was a long-time guide for me, because it was like, oh, you're just making me feel comfortable. And I see that a lot in like trauma bonding. And there can be important pieces to that, right? Having connection, having that friendship, having that sisterhood, and whatever capacity can be an important part of a soul's journey. And when you're really ready to do the work, the person who can guide you there isn't going to just make you feel,
comfortable
all the time. Not in a way that is
painful.
Harmful, not in a way that is, intentionally causing harm at all. It's that ability to hold somebody in that truth and in that discomfort, and I love that, like me, you've gone through the body work first and then entered the shamanism realms, because that is so important in the safety of, especially in this world that we live in, to really be able to hold that and take somebody on that journey is like actually the most advanced spiritual practitioners, and ascension is actually in the body.
Yeah, it is. And
the deepest magic is physiology.
Oh yeah, and I would say yes. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, like truly, because like the shaman that I hired to take me on this path, really, because I was like, teach me, show me the things like that. She has made me feel so freaking uncomfortable on so many levels, but not in the way that it's like harmful or hurtful. It's literally about the fact that I didn't understand something and now I do understand something. So it's like pushing past like what the realms are like of like things that you feel like you understand, but you really are so off base that you have to kind of go back into, like, you have to go back in to really understand it. And that's what makes it uncomfortable, because you're really reprogramming, your neurological systems, you're reprogramming your nervous system, you're reprogramming your synapses, because like you're unlearning things that you've learned. So that's why it's uncomfortable. It's not because it's painful. It's just like, wow, this is like sending me for a trip right now, like that I have to like go back in here. And like you, like I think, I don't remember if we said it on actually on the recording, or if we were talking about it before, but I'll mention it again. It's like, everybody always says that, personal development work or growth, and your own, I think body growth, all of this stuff is like an onion. You start with one layer and you just peel it back one layer at a time, and it takes time to do that. But you had said like there's no end to the onion, and I'm like, no, there's not. There's like, it just keeps going. And it's like you're always learning. Like that's why I said I will always have one or two coaches for the rest of my life, because I want somebody that's our teachers really, for the rest of my life, because I want somebody that's already done something that I can kind of like push to achieve. That's why I went down the shamanism route, because I was like, this is something I want to challenge myself with, and to learn and to push. And if you're not doing that, then you're not growing, like that's the thing. But I have loved having you on here, because like you're just a wealth of information, and like I said, we could make this like a 3 or 4 hour podcast.
Thank you so much, Paige. This has been amazing.
I know, this is so fun. I just love having when you actually get somebody and you can have that conversation. It's just really, really fun. So for you guys listening, obviously, if you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, please make sure you pop over to the YouTube channel and follow us on The Unspoken Truth on there. We're also going to attach all of Caytlyn's links inside the description for all of you guys that want to follow her, like her, maybe ask her questions, get into her mind a little bit more. But I encourage you to do that. Obviously, she really knows what she's talking about, and maybe she might actually end up being the person for you guys that, can help you along the way and to understand yourself better. So I just appreciate you coming on. I know this was the first time we met, but absolutely had a blast talking to you.
Thank you again so much. I would love to be back anytime, sister.